Hello everyone, this is Double Bits Workshop. In today's episode, I will be going through the process of making a stand for my bandsaw. Now I know what you're thinking, you can go out and purchase one off of Amazon for somewhat cheap, starting at $50, but it goes up pretty quick from there. I've seen a few different renditions and different people using a similar kind of universal stand for bandsaws, and I thought it might work, but I don't know, I had kind of that hint in the back of my head that I didn't know for sure, but also $50 seemed like something, I don't know, like I could do better. So I looked through a couple different renditions and some ideas, and I thought to myself, good old pallet wood, and I purchased some casters. Nothing too major, but something that should work just fine. Let's get to building. So for just a quick little overview of what the casters look like, comes in a little kit here. These are currently some of the cheapest yet well-reviewed casters on Amazon. You have the screwdriver, as well as you have some different screws. They also have some washers. The bag actually tore open there, but this is what the casters look like. They pivot, swivel, and lock in place quite nicely. And if you look underneath and see a little bit with these teeth here, let's see if we can get a better angle on that. It kind of locks over each of these little teeth here, and that's what makes it a locking caster. They are pretty decent, and I like that there is some distance to be able to mount each one of the screws. A couple of these I've seen before, the circle is almost covering a lot of the holes and makes it very difficult. So that's actually one of the things I was looking for when I was looking at pictures of these and reviews before purchasing, was making sure that there was actually a good distance so that I could actually mount the screws in. I know, capital idea. But there's a couple brands out there that just give you no real room, which is funny to think that's the whole point. But these worked out pretty good. I think these were like $11.99, so not too bad at all. Free 2-day shipping, of course, and all that fun jazz. But I got 4 of these, and my thought process is I will take good old pallet wood, cross them as such, I'll mount them over top of each other, and then mount them up underneath the bandsaw. And what I'm thinking is I'll probably just kind of recess it a little bit like that to help with the curve on each of the legs. And I'm just going to do front and back, and then just overlap them and have it recess a little bit so that way it snugs up nice and tight underneath the bandsaw. That part will be pretty simple. As for the cover of it, because I also want to use it as under storage, I have a couple pieces of just some good old basic plywood, or just scrap plywood is a better way to say it, because actual plywood is just sheets and sheets of one tree, versus this is pretty much glued up of all the remnants. So this is more modern pallet or plywood that you can get out of a lot of pallets. In fact, actually this came off of a crate that I found off the side of the road, so another free grab on some very now expensive material. So we'll mount up the frame real quick, throw some casters on it once we get everything underneath, but I also need to clean up the area. So I'll kind of give you a quick glimpse of what that looks like now before we can continue on with the project. Alright, so kind of a preliminary look here. I've got quite a bit of stock that I use both in the bandsaw for some different projects. As you can kind of see here, I actually have cut off for some coasters that we did. Nothing super crazy, just basically a little like cookie. Each one of these pieces is set up to be either cut on the said bandsaw or just to the left on the Shopsmith for wood lathing. I had that all ready to where I can just kind of grab it and work with it. The downfall, and pardon the jitters, this isn't the most smooth tripod, but I have an AC unit that helps keep the temperature in here, especially during the summertime, quite low. Pardon the mess. Hashtag real shop, you can jokingly say. But I enjoy this AC unit. As you can see, there's the problem. This is in the way. So that's part of the reason I wanted this on casters, is that way I can roll that out of the way, which I need to kind of clean up over here a little bit. That's the last remaining mess from when the shop was super dirty and got cleaned up. I kind of still have more material and stuff over here, but I want to clean it up to where once this is mounted, it'll do two things for me. One, I can move this out of the way and enjoy the AC actually working and not trying to push air around this. And number two, this is actually a bit lower than the window. So when I try in the time of year and seasons where the AC isn't in the window, I have that set up to where I can just push the material right out the window as I'm cutting it. Works awesome. Downfall is currently, as I'm cutting, it hits the wall, so then I have to back it up a little bit, raise it up, and cut upwards, which is not, first and foremost, not safe, but also, two, you don't get that good of a clean cut. So I want to be able to raise this up to where it's over the window sill, as well as it is over the actual opening of the window, so the material can just go straight outside as I cut it. And then I also don't have to worry about how much room I have in the shop, moving that around in deeper. Currently, as we start getting closer to autumn and go through that into winter, I'll be making more cuts and making more videos and content and everything inside the shop more so. So also having this on casters to where I can roll it in the middle of the room to make those cuts instead of awkwardly kind of walking this or just straight deadlifting this and running it into the middle of the shop, setting it down type deal, which there isn't much room to run. But that was the other intention for having casters underneath this. So now we're going to move this forward, lay it on its back, of course once everything's cleaned off the top of it, and I'll get some measurements, make some cuts on the pallet wood, and then we're going to mount up some casters, stand it up, and then I'll also take an additional measurement to lay the plywood on the interior of it, so that way we have a nice base so that all of this material can still kind of stay contained with it, because right now I have to move all of that out and I have to grab each one piece, move it out and slide it out. It's kind of a pain taking that all out just to move this one way or the other. So now we will move on to that step in the process. Alright, so kind of a quick side note. I have been stashing and holding on to these for quite some time. I actually got these from my grandpa on my dad's side. So these came from the San Luis Valley. They were originally used as fence posts down there. My grandpa's got some property down there, and it's a beautiful area we need to visit here, hopefully in this near future. Well, we shall see. And these are, I believe, cedar. And these things are insane for a few different purposes. The property that he purchased had these as fence posts, and he's been slowly swapping them out and putting in more modern fence posts as needed. Now these look like not only did they grow down there, but also have been mounted up for quite some time. On the property, from what he can tell, they're probably around like 100-ish years old or so. Not only that, but the rings on here, so you can't even really tell how tight each one of these rings are. So not only are these super old, they were cut down and made into and used for fence posts, as you can kind of see here with this part cut out for barbed wire down there. But then they lived for that much longer in the ground as a fence post. So I don't even know how old these are. But not only that, they are super cool looking. He did tell me that it dulled and probably just about killed his chainsaw blade just cutting these up, because he was actually using them as firewood. Sadly enough, he himself has also said that that was, he's like, it hurt, but I stayed warm. And I've just been trying my hardest to think of a good project with it, because I know it's going to probably kill one of my blades as I cut it up and use it for something. But I also thought about maybe turning something on the wood lathe, but that begs the question of how quickly will it destroy the tool, if my tools can actually even make an impact without just gnarling it up. And there's just so much character in the bark that, yes, I can get it down to this core, but it really begs the question of, do I destroy a lot of its character and literal hundreds of years that this has absorbed sand and soil blowing around down there, and just all the life that it has had pre and post mortem, you could say. So let me know in the comments any ideas or suggestions for different projects to use. I've got a couple different pieces, some painted, some not, and varying thicknesses and sizes. I thought about doing some basic stuff with the bandsaw, such as coasters, and a couple different things to where you could still have some of that character, but then also get a little bit more of that kind of nice reddish hue inside. Well, some larger ones. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. I'll be also thinking about it, and hopefully some future videos will come of these. One of the other things I'm really excited about with this whole caster setup is that now I can actually roll this out to utilize the dust collection, which, as you can see, I have not been doing so. So actually, sadly, despite the tape, the little side there doesn't actually really allow for that to work. Because it would go over the center ring, but it starts hitting that outer ring. So if I was to take the adapter off completely, it would go over this and cinch down nice and tight. So I might look at a quick fitting down the road or something like that, just to make this guy work a little bit better. And that way I wouldn't have to consistently remove the adapter. But if I needed to, at least it's just this little screw right here. Take it off, clamp that over that, utilize this. But now this is free roam. Free roam in the tiny shop. So there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I think it worked out pretty good. To give you kind of a final dimension for the feet, it is 23.5 by 19.5 is what mine was. Now the reason I say that is because due to manufacture there is a chance for a little bit of variation. It is a thinner gauge of kind of just a steel, so you can flex it and bend it. So if you do 23.5 by 19.5 and one of the legs is bent in just slightly, don't be afraid to just kind of press it in there and kind of flex those out a little bit. They're not so brittle that they're going to get damaged by any means by doing that. It's still very strong and rigid. It is holding up the bandsaw after all, but just kind of keep that in mind to give you kind of a final overview of that. As you saw in the video, I just overlapped a couple of boards and then threw some sheeting on top of it. One was just a little bit thicker than the other, but I didn't mind. As you saw, the material I'll be using in there consistently is in of itself going to be different lengths, different widths, so it's not necessarily going to matter too much if there is a seam that is just ever so slightly larger or higher than the other one. And over time of use, it should probably smooth out anyway just from dragging and moving those around. Hopefully I'll be doing some more wood turning videos. I'm looking at potentially purchasing a chuck attachment, one of the Nova chucks, for the Shopsmith. I'm kind of looking around shopping a little bit. It was kind of a little bit of an oddity, contemplating if I wanted to continue with the Shopsmith or if I wanted to just buy a wood lathe in of itself. But I love the Shopsmith enough, so I'm going to try to keep continuing getting parts for that. If anyone out there wants me to make more content on my Shopsmith, it is the Shopsmith 5. I'm more than happy to. Just leave me a comment down below if you want to have more content following that kind of train of thought, or any questions that anyone might have on it. I will be releasing more of that as well as I delve into seeing how I can make it a little bit more rigid. It has a little bit of a wobble just because of its design and it being aluminum to make it lighter. It has the tendency to kind of drift or move slightly as you're lathing on it. So I want to see how I can kind of either permanently mount it down with the ability to move it if I wanted to. I don't know if I'll really, it is a tiny shop, so I'm not really pulling that away from the wall at all. I liked that ability, but I might take that away. I'm not quite sure. Please hit the like and subscribe button as well if you enjoyed the content here before you. If you enjoy what you're seeing so far and want to see more of it, make sure to hit that notification bell. That way you get notifications each and every time that I'm making content. So, thanks again. Have a good one.